Hi guys, welcome to another supposedly Thursday night roleplay, but it's Friday morning by this point, just got in from work. Today I'm going to be talking about halflings and how they play off with the various classes. It's one more in my series of how various races work with various classes. First, let's go to the basics of halflings. If you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, they're hobbits, mostly. The PHB describes them as small, practical, preferring the comforts of home. They're kind, they're curious, and they have a specific ability to blend into the crowds and work well with others. So they're Tourette's. So they're the likable, friendly guys of D&D. Also points out that most halflings live in small, peaceful communities, kind of farming villages and the like. So they're very rural England, but could quite easily be adapted to rural America, to be honest, or rural anywhere. I'm sure there are rural Kazakhstan halflings around somewhere. Sorry, just something in my eye there. When it comes to the stats with halflings, oops, sorry. I was just trying to have 2 pages, that makes sense. When it comes to the stats for halflings, you have a dexterity score of +2, which we can immediately see lends itself to certain classes. Their alignments tend to be good and can vary through lawful and chaotic. They're about 3 foot tall. Their speed is 25 feet, so a little slower than average. They're lucky. When you roll a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll ability or saving throw, you can re-roll the die but must use the new roll. It at least helps you not to have crit fails, which avoiding a crit fail at the right moment is actually a very powerful ability. Brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Again, quite a useful one. And halfling nimbleness. You can move through the space of any creature that is a size larger than you. You can literally run through people's legs with halfling and stuff like that. Standard languages. There are 2 sub-races of halflings. There's the Lightfoots and the Stouts. The Lightfoots are more the halflings that hide from notice and hide in bushes. If you've ever read the preface to Hobbit, it quite happily says the hobbits are still alive now. It's just they're so good at hiding that humans never see them. This is essentially how the Lightfoots are. They're good at moving around, and they're good at hiding from danger, which is why they're so successful as a species. The ability score for Lightfoots is +1 to the charisma score. Again, we can instantly see that this might help. And naturally stealthy. You can attempt to hide even when you're obscured by a creature that's at least 1 size larger than you. You can literally hide behind people. Second one is a stout halfling, hardier than average, and have some resistance to poison. Some say stout halflings have dwarven blood. Stat-wise, you get +1 on your constitution score, which, being as there's no negative constitution score for being a halfling, means you're tougher than your average person. Small but tough. And you have advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance against poison damage, which basically means you have advantage against fear saving throws and poison saving throws and +1 con, which makes you quite tough. We can instantly see certain fighter builds benefiting from halfling status, which is a little weird. If we look at barbarians, the idea of a tiny raging barbarian halfling is hilarious, but there are actually some stats. Sorry, the camera's a little hard, I'm just going to modify that. There are actually some stats and some races of raging halflings and halfling barbarians that exist. I mean, first things first, with with a combat halfling, you're probably going to want to shift towards a dex fighter rather than a strength fighter. But being as they have no negatives in 5th ed, there's no reason not to have them in any kind of fighting role. Your stout halflings working in a barbarian role is going to work reasonably well. You've already got some resistances going on there. Add to that the abilities unarmored defense, rage, danger sense, and you've already got a creature that works quite well as a barbarian. Rules wise, in terms of background, halflings do tend to live outside the normal highways and byways of humanity as well as inside. So having a barbarian, having someone who's a hunter and a gatherer, or someone who follows the flocks and follows herds of animals around as many barbarian tribesmen do, it works quite well with a halfling and works sort of with a barbarian. So that's actually not a problem at all. Halfling barbarians, totally a doable thing. Halfling bards. Whilst there is no charisma score for the stout, the Lightfoots have a charisma score and have the ability to avoid damage. So having them as a bard, having them as a character buffing bard, whilst they themselves avoid combat, totally a doable thing. Makes absolute sense with the bard's abilities. The charisma bonus will mean that you are a reasonable bard. A lot of bards like to fight with rapiers and other light swords in a similar to roguish swashbuckling way, meaning that your average halfling is going to fit quite easily rules wise with bards. They also love song, they love drink, they love meeting with humans, and apparently they like drinking pints. So the Lightfoot halflings work exceptionally well with bards, to the point where if you actually look at the picture of a halfling, that's blatantly a bard right there. Clerics. Rules wise, first, there are no buffs to wisdom that work with clerics. If you're looking to play the walking tank, the resistance to damage and resistance to fear can help, and the extra charisma of a stout could well work with the self-buffing damage resistant cleric, the walking tank cleric. It would be a little odd, but still works perfectly well. Again, if you're looking at playing any fighting class with a halfling, going for a dex-based fighter is always going to give you the advantage of that 2+ to your dex. Halflings have gods the same as anyone else, and as I previously said, clerics as a class are one of the oldest classes in D&D, dating all the way back to Red Book, and as such pretty much work with everything that's come since them. All the sub-races, all the extra bits that have been added, all tend to work very well with clerics. It's easy enough to find a halfling god that works with that, and with their natural robustness and resilience, you can create quite a tough little character there. Where are we? Druids. Again, druids, rule-wise, druids work off of, I'm pretty sure it's wisdom, isn't it? Spellcasting with wisdom, yeah. Rule-wise, again, druids work off wisdom. There is nothing rules-wise that says a halfling will have an advantage as a druid, but there's nothing that says they can't work as druids. Background-wise, they live in and around rural farming communities. They live in and around bucolic areas, so there's nothing stopping a halfling becoming a druid. There's nothing stopping a halfling wanting to work with nature rather than against it. If you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, the holes in the ground, the trees that wind through, halflings are much more in line with nature than their human counterparts. They're much more likely to work with the natural order of things than ride roughshod over it, as their human counterparts might. There are many druid circles, all of them work well with halflings. And yeah, there's literally nothing stopping a halfling being a druid. Monks work well with anybody. But rules-wise, the stout halflings work particularly well with monks. There's already an ability. Where is it? Shadow arts. Shadow step like a shadow. Well, no, I don't want that. I want the first rules. I've gone past it. Martial arts. Yeah. Martial arts allows you to use dexterity instead of strength for your attack and damage rolls, so that instantly that 2+ dex for a halfling monk comes in very, very well. And that resistance on a stout monk, that resistance on a stout halfling means you're going to be able to take some damage, you're going to be able to take poison damage, and the extra constitution is just going to make it a little bit tougher. There's no reason why you couldn't play a Lightfoot monk, simply hitting and then moving out of the way, kind of like a ninja style thing, and that would work very well. And if any of you watched any anime, any martial arts films, the idea of the wizened old tiny warrior that can kick your ass is a classic one. And instantly, halflings lend themselves to that. In terms of halfling backgrounds, monks and other religious character, whilst halflings tend to like home comfort, dedicating themselves to a religion is not beyond them. Dedicating themselves to years of study is not beyond them. And then being that weird little priest that enjoys his own creature comforts is somehow better than all the other priests at martial arts. That's perfectly within what halflings can do. Next we get to paladins. Paladins are a little more awkward for a halfling. They rely heavily on their strength. However, it is worth noting that a paladin's spellcasting ability is charisma. So your Lightfoot halflings with their charisma boost and their ability to hide could create quite an effective hit and run paladin, going out there, doing its lay on hands, doing its repel dead, and then backing out. So that's certainly possible there. The stout halflings with their resistances adding to the paladin's ability to resist evil and that might work well. There's certainly nothing against them becoming a paladin. It just becomes in the background. They are much more viewed as timid creatures that avoid combat when necessary, whereas a paladin is somebody that runs in, stands in front of the bad guy and yells, "Have some." So it might be a little atypical of a halfling to play a paladin. Again, there's nothing that says you can't play against type. It's just playing with type is fun. But that being said, yeah, like I said, there's nothing rules-wise making it difficult to play a paladin. And background-wise, you can always come up with something. They just don't quite fit. Next we move on to the rangers. Again, with their ability to hide, their ability to move through undergrowth and cover, Lightfoot halflings make ideal rangers. Stout halflings, not much to recommend them to rangerhood, but again, no reason they can't be. You shift over, again, as I say, to a dex fighter, you're not doing too bad. Where are we? Where's that ranger spellcasting ability? Is wisdom again. So there's nothing that recommends a halfling to being a ranger, but again, there's nothing that stops it being a ranger. Some of the abilities, these saves against poison, may allow it to survive in harsher situations. Its ability to hide certainly works well with the rangers and their kind of hit and run coming from nowhere tactics. So yeah, there's a bit of rules-wise stuff there that can work for rangers. Rogues love dexterity. Rogues love the ability to hide. A Lightfoot halfling is going to make an excellent rogue. Same as they make a good ranger, they're going to make a fantastic rogue. Stout halfling, not quite so much, but still stout halfling is going to get that +2 dex bonus, which is going to give it abilities to deal with stuff. It has resistance to poisons and that, so I can certainly see certain contricts, and I can definitely see the iocane powder situation happening. For anybody who hasn't watched Princess Bride, it sucks to be you. Watch Princess Bride. Then you'll get that reference. If you don't get that reference, it so sucks to be you that I'm not even going to explain it. Wizards. No, sorry. Sorcerers. Pretty much everything works with sorcerers. Background-wise, because sorcerers are much more about magic has flowed through you, you know not from whence. Yes, it can be from Fae, which works with halflings. Yes, it can be from dragon ancestry, which a halfling can just as easily have as anything else. You've got, when you sit there thinking, well, halflings are tiny compared to a dragon, so's a human. I don't think a dragon's going to notice that much difference between a human and a halfling, because they're so tiny compared to a big dragon. So there's equal likelihood that a dragon would breed with a human, would breed with a halfling, would breed with pretty much anything it wants to, because it's a dragon. If it's going to go non-dragon, I'm not sure what's going to limit it. Where are we? Where is your spellcasting ability? I'm pretty sure it's intelligence, isn't it? No, it's charisma. With your Lightfoots, with your charisma bonus, that's going to help. So there is a bit of a rules thing for a Lightfoot to play a sorcerer. No reason why a stout can't, particularly if it can resist spells going wrong. So rules wise, there are certain advantages to halfling sorcerer. Warlocks. Again, I think rules wise, warlocks work pretty much anything, because it's somebody who's gotten to the point where they feel the need to do a deal with a stronger, more powerful entity. Halflings are often considered smaller, weaker, and more vulnerable. You could easily see any halfling, background-wise, being backed into the corner to a point where it has to make a deal with somebody stronger and more powerful for protection. A lot of the time, that's kind of how you get halflings hanging in groups. So a halfling becoming a warlock in a background is totally feasible. Some of the more unnatural, weirder stuff might cause problems with a halfling's love of, all things living and all things rural, and farming and home comforts. But there's no reason why it can't do a deal with a fae. Maybe it reaches out to an elder god out of desperation. Maybe it reaches out to a fiend out of desperation. But that all works as background. Where are we? In terms of where's your spellcasting ability? Spellcasting ability, again, charisma. So again, halflings can be very charismatic, particularly for halflings with that charisma buff. So there is a rules advantage to taking a halfling warlock. As I say, you've got multiple otherworldly patrons, your archfey, your fiends, and your great old ones. I kind of think your archfey probably lend themselves most easily. And your fiends and your old ones might come more out of desperation than actual desire to work with them. Wizards. Again, wizards work well with most things because they're one of the oldest factions. Your spellcasting ability is intelligence. Halflings get no buffs to intelligence, so there's no rule-wise reason it would work. Halflings do, however, tend to live in weird old communities. Knowing a weird uncle, a Bilbo Baggins type, it's totally reasonable that weird uncle that's slightly odd could in fact be a wizard. There's totally reasonable that, he takes on an apprentice, or that a halfling being physically not as strong necessarily as other creatures seeks to use magic to augment his power. And the idea of a halfling who goes very much through the what am I thinking of? I'm not thinking transmutation. I am thinking, yeah, no, yeah, I'm thinking transmutation. The shape changer, a halfling that changes shapes into something bigger and stronger, is both amusing and an incredibly effective character, as he sheds many of his problems and gains a bunch of advantages by becoming whatever it is he wants to polymorph into. Yeah, I've done that one a lot quicker than I've done the others. I feel like I must have missed something. I'm just going to quickly go back through there. What did I miss? What did I miss? Oh, basic fighter. There you go. I missed basic fighter. Yeah, with halflings, there's nothing to stop them taking a basic fighter. The stouts will have obviously the most advantages, having the highest constitution. So there's no reason that a stout halfling can't be a basic fighter. There's no reason it can't be a fighter. There's no reason the others can't be a fighter either. But again, you're probably going to be looking at a dex-based fighter more than any other kind of fighter, just because that 2+ dex really is going to give you an advantage. And where halflings are technically small, I believe there are some damage issues there. So you're really going to want to go dex rather than strength with a halfling. Excellent deal. I knew I'd missed something. Yeah, that one was quicker. I think partially because I know halflings a little better than I knew elves. I haven't played elves that much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that helped give you some inspiration. Helped you figure out, if you want to play a halfling, how it might be better to play that halfling. And thanks very much. Goodbye. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.